Hello and welcome to the Physical Preparation Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Robertson, and today we're going to be talking about 10 tips to become a happy, healthy, and more successful coach. Now, I don't think this is an embellishment or an exaggeration, but I really feel like this show could be the most impactful thing you listen to all year. Because, as I started accumulating all the information, I started pulling this show together, it really was outsourced by people like you. Because unlike a lot of the social media experts or the influencers that are out there, I'm still out in that real world every day. I'm in the gym. I'm working with real clients. I'm at workshops. I'm attending seminars. I'm answering DMs from people just like you. And so what I've found is I keep getting the same questions over and over again. Sometimes it's about how to best handle your money or your finances. It's how to build a successful career. It's the same questions, and it's not just something that's come up over the last year. These are the common themes or the common threads to the questions that I've been answering for the last 10, 15, maybe even as long as 20 years. So I think when I keep getting the same questions and I'm getting them from, all over the world or from people at all these various stages in their fitness careers, then I feel like shows like this can be really valuable, because if tons of people are dealing with them, then chances are at least one of these will apply to you. And in most cases, a lot of them will apply to you. So that's what we're going to dive in here today. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to jump into these 10 tips to help you become a happy, healthy, and more successful coach. Okay, so our first tip for today is to start with lifestyle design first. Now, you may be thinking, what the heck is lifestyle design? Why is it important to me? And we're going to talk about that because I think it's really important. And I've had this discussion probably hundreds of times over my career, but I'm not sure I've ever shared it on the show. So I think this is going to be really valuable. In fact, I just did a mentorship call with a young coach based out of Chicago a couple weeks ago. We talked about this, but I think for whatever reason, the time that it comes to light the most, or the most impactful time I've had this conversation was with iFast's own Jay Chung. And Jay had been at iFast for numerous years. He was getting ready to get married, or had just gotten married. His wife and him were getting ready to move. And so one of the common themes that people want to talk about in any industry is they want to talk about their career goals, right? So maybe it's how much money they want to make, where they want to work. It's all career-based, or it's all career-driven. And so they want to lead with career. And I think that's actually the wrong way to look at this. Okay. So instead of looking at your career goals, right, when you're setting out on your plan, maybe you're a young coach listening to this, or you're a vet and you're trying to kind of like reshape your career and figure out what the next steps are, I would say don't look at your career first, look at your lifestyle first. Okay. And so what this does is, I think lifestyle is kind of the overarching umbrella that encompasses all the other aspects of our life. So when I start talking about your lifestyle, okay, well, what's important to you? What's going to be most impactful to you? Do you just want to go out there and just work your ass off and grind? Okay, if that's the case, cool. Do you want to take a ton of vacations? Do you want to work 6 months out of the year and be able to take 6 months off? I don't know if there's a way to do that, but these are the questions you want to ask yourself. Do you want to spend a lot of time with your family? Because once you know the answers to these questions, it'll be that much easier to start to craft exactly what you need to do from a career perspective. Okay, so I'm going to always share my stories whenever I can, because I think it's relevant, but it also gives you some insight into how I've always kind of followed this path. So when Jess and I took our first jobs, we moved to Fort Wayne. That was the only place that I could get a job right out of college. But I also knew I didn't love Fort Wayne. I wasn't super passionate about the work there. I love the people. I love the learning. I love being able to create content for T Nation and all of those things, but I didn't love working in a rehab strictly environment. And so my first goal was just to get to Indy, right? So once I got to Indy, then it was like, okay, now my next kind of lifestyle thing was, hey, I want to have control over my career. So I went and worked for another guy for 3 years, Mike, and again, great run doing in-home training, but the goal was always to, hey, I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to do all of the things career-wise with regards to getting great results with my clients. But when I wasn't training clients, that's when I was creating all that content for T Nation. I was creating Magnificent Mobility, Inside Out, Bulletproof Knees, Building the Efficient Athlete. I created all those products so I could have enough income so that when it was time to move out and not, kind of have a job anymore, I would have the funds necessary to open my own gym. All right. So for me, all the things that I was doing were setting me up in a sense to be able to open iFast. And obviously, when Bill and I did that, we both not only had our own gym equipment, but we each had money set aside. So we never had to take out a bank loan, which was very rare, I think, at that point in time, right? We each had basically a rack and some power blocks. So he had a set, I had a set. We put our money together. I think we maybe put in $10,000 collectively, got a third set, got some other pieces, and boom, we were off and running. And we literally had no debt going into opening our gym. So that was one way where I was kind of thinking about designing my lifestyle. Now, the next big shift or emphasis kind of changed, or it started to evolve, 2010, 2011, when we have Kindle. Because for me, I don't want to be that guy that's literally working split shifts. I never see my kid. I get to tuck them in for 15 minutes at night before they go to bed. Like, what kind of lifestyle is that? And that just wasn't going to work for me. And so I basically created my entire career around, hey, here are the hours when she's going to be at home. For a little while, I actually took every other Wednesday off, simply because Jess was working pretty much full time at the time. But, Wednesdays were a day where she had to work. I could take Wednesdays off. So Wednesdays, her and I would go to music class and we'd go out to breakfast. And, for me, I tell you all this to just let you know, for me, it's not just been about my career. It has, because I'm passionate about it and I love it. But for me, the lifestyle was the most important piece. So then I just had to figure out, okay, how do I create a job or a career or a workplace that allows me to take this sort of time off? Okay. One of the other things that I did quite a bit, and it was very hard because, not to brag, but I do feel like I was a very in-demand speaker at that point in time. I said no to a lot of stuff. I probably said no to more things than I should have in some cases, because I didn't want to spend time away from my family. I wanted to nurture that and enjoy that time in my life, because I was just so acutely aware that I would never get those times back. Okay. So I tell you all this to circle back to the beginning, just tell you, basically, I think the most important thing you should do is don't worry about your career first, right? Yes, your career is important. Yes, you want it to be impactful. You want to make enough money, all of those things. I get that. But I think the most important thing for you early on is to figure out what you want your lifestyle to look like. And you may not need a 20-year plan, but you need to think about, hey, what kind of hours do I want to work? How much time do I want off? Who do I want to spend time with? Who is important to me? All of these things are arguably more important. And I think if you start with that, then it'll make it that much easier for you to get clear on what you want your career to look like. Okay. So as we go through these, in almost every case, I've got an actionable item. Okay. So the actionable item for this is, if you're lost, confused, struggling with what your path should look like, I want you to take 1 to 2 hours, right? And maybe it'll take longer. Maybe it won't take quite as long if you're kind of on the fringe of this and you kind of know what you want it to look like. But take 1 to 2 hours out of your time, turn the devices off, go to a coffee shop, whatever works for you, but get really clear on the life that you want to lead. And for me, again, it's always been kind of this dual role, right? Yeah, I want to be amazing at my career. I want to make a profound impact with the athletes that I work with. But at the same time, I want to be a family man. I want to be there for Jess and for Kate and for Kendall, because, there's a shelf life on that, right? And at some point, they're going to leave the house. Hopefully Jess doesn't, but the kids are going to leave and they're going to go to college and they're going to have their own lives. So I want to take advantage of this time. And so I think if you get really clear on the lifestyle that you want to lead, it's going to make the decision-making for your career that much easier. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2, this should be pretty straightforward, pretty direct, but I think a lot of times trainers and coaches get in trouble early on in their career because they want to live above their means. Right. And I remember this when I got done with college, and I remember I had moved to Fort Wayne and we'd come back to Indianapolis. And so it was like kind of this reacquainting myself with the Indy lifestyle. And there's just a lot more stuff to do here. Right. And a lot of the people that I had known in college had worked at, one of the big gyms here in Indianapolis. In this case, I think it was Lifetime. But it was interesting because I saw all these people and they worked crazy hours, the 6 to 2s, 2s to 10s, whatever. They would grind it out all week. And then I would see them on the weekend just crushing it at the bars. And they were talking, I don't have any money. And dude, I know they made pretty good money. Like, I interviewed at Lifetime. I know what kind of money they were making. But what I found was so many of these people were just living above their means, right? And I think so many trainers get stressed out these days, and they get stressed out about money because they're not good with their money, right? It's like it comes in one hand and it's out the other. All right. So another example that I've seen, and again, I don't know if this is relevant as much with today's youth, because I hear more and more are staying at home for longer periods of time. But when we were all, again, 47, so in like the early 2000s, a lot of us were coming into the workforce. We were starting to rent apartments, buy condos, buy houses. And one of the things that I thought was interesting was in so many cases, people were buying essentially the equivalent house or even a nicer house than the one that their parents currently lived in. And I thought that was so interesting and so unique. And I remember I read this article, again, it was like 20 years ago, but it was talking about how we're basically leveraging our future because we want to live in a house that our families and our parents worked their entire lives to move into, right? So we saw what they had in their 40s, 50s, whatever, and we wanted that in our 20s. And so that always resonated with me. And I was like, okay, so we're not going to do that. When Jess and I moved here, we bought our condo, right? Like little 2-bedroom condo. We lived there for 3 years. Again, this is when I'm doing in-home and saving all that money and all that. So when it was time to go out and buy our first house, we had the money to be able to do that. So this one's really simple, right? And you probably have an idea as to where you're at right now, but this one's simple, but maybe not easy, right? Spend less than you make and make sure you're saving for that proverbial rainy day, right? And this has come in handy for us numerous times because trust me, when COVID hit, both myself personally and iFast as a gym, because we had been doing this next point, we had plenty of money saved aside. All right. So that's number 2, live beneath your means. And then number 3, start using profit first ASAP. And I know what you may be thinking. Well, Mike, I don't own a business. I don't care, right? It might sound weird, but even if it's your personal finances, I think you should start treating it like you're running a business. All right. So going back in the time machine, this was probably 10, maybe 12 years ago now. I don't know. A bunch of people that I knew that were also fitness entrepreneurs were all talking about profit first, right? When guys like Andy McCloy and Mark Fisher and Luca Hocevar, when all these guys that I really respect are using this system or talking about this system, it warrants my attention, right? And that's just like a good, simple lesson here. When a lot of really smart people are all talking about the same thing, first, make sure it's not just an echo chamber, but it's worth listening to. And it's worth paying attention to see if it really pans out. But if you're unfamiliar with profit first, it's essentially like the envelope system, right? So again, looking back like 50 years ago, and it's interesting because I keep finding myself looking back 50, 60, 70 years, like how did people manage their finances coming out of things like the Great Depression? And, they had to be better with money, right? Because it wasn't as plentiful, right? They didn't have access to credit the way that we do now. So one of the things that they did was they had an envelope system. So it's like, hey, if you have, I don't know, $1,000 a month, 200 or 300 has to go to your house or your rent or your mortgage payment. You have, maybe another 100 to 200 for groceries. So you have all these envelopes set aside to figure out where your income is going to go, right? And what that forces you to do, if you do it right, is it forces you to start putting money aside. And that could be for your retirement. That could be for a savings account, again, for that proverbial rainy day. But one of the things that I think we're missing out on as an industry, and we'll talk about this in a couple different ways over the course of this show, but obviously you need money to live on. But one of the things that I don't think enough trainers are doing these days is setting aside a portion of their income for continuing education. And this is something that I did very early on. I can't remember the book. I wish I could. But I just remember living in Fort Wayne. We didn't have a lot to do. There was a very thriving social scene there. So Jess and I, on a lot of instances, would go to a coffee shop and just read a book, right? Borders or Barnes and Noble. And I remember one time I was sitting there and I was reading this book, and this guy was talking about you need to invest 10% of all your personal income into career education, into leveling yourself up. And again, I was making no money at this point in time, right? And I had school debts and I had a car payment, and I was getting ready to propose, so I needed to buy an engagement ring. Dude, I had no money. But I was always setting aside even a couple $100 a month because I knew if I kept learning and growing and getting better, that was going to pay itself back in droves down the line. All right. So one of the things that this does, not only does it help you better allocate your money, right? But it shifts your mindset because now you're not just a trainer, right? You're not just a trainer that, goes and trades basically hours for dollars, but training is a career that you're now investing in actively. And I'm just telling you guys, this is a big mindset shift because I think a lot of the people that don't end up being successful in our industry, right? It's hours for dollars. They maybe they started as a coach because they like to work out, right? And they like how they look and how it makes them feel. And so they do it for a little while, but they never really invest in it. They never really invest in themselves, their own continuing education. So ultimately, if you're not curious and you're not growing, you end up either just burning out or getting bored and you move on. But I think the best ones in this industry, the people that do last, not just for years, but we're talking for decades, and that have the most impact, whether it's within the industry or at least with the people that they're coming in contact with every day, are the people that look at it as a career. So coaching and training is a career, and it's something they invest in so they can keep getting better. All right. So the actionable item here, if you're struggling with finances, buy Profit First right now, today, and start implementing it. I will put a link to it in the show notes. It's a super easy read. And I will just tell you that ever since we have used this, the money woes are almost nil, right? Because there's always money set aside, especially as a business owner. If you're an independent contractor, one of the worst feelings is when you get a big tax check for income that you did not properly allocate tax money to. And so that's one of the best things about this system. There's no surprises. I know, hey, I've always got money to set aside for my taxes. There's always money set aside for my continuing education. And there's always money set aside for profit, right? To save it, put it away, and store it for a rainy day. Okay, number 4, let's talk about growing your coaching inner circle. And this is one where, let me kind of circle around to this one. But I think COVID really ruined our industry in so many ways. And it's actually funny because for so long, I couldn't put COVID in anything, right? Like if it was a social media post, it would get flagged. If I tried to put it in Infusionsoft, which is my email and customer management software, if I would put it in there, it would get flagged as spam. I couldn't use the word COVID. And you just think about that period of time. Like if you can go back in time and think about, we couldn't go in our gym, right? Some of us for literal months on end, some of us for, 6, 9, I think some people were really almost shut down for closer to a year. That's crazy to think about. When we go back, everybody's wary of each other. We're wearing masks. It was just weird, right? The entire experience was weird. Now, luckily, we're back, right? We're back coaching. But here's one thing I don't think has ever fully come back, and that's our continuing education and our coaching networks. I don't feel like those have ever fully come back. And I'll give you a great case in point here. Running seminars since COVID is entirely different. I don't know why that is. And maybe some people are having more success than I am. Maybe they got a better marketing engine behind them. But guys, I've run seminars for almost 2 decades now. We've done the small, little intimate ones, right? Where it's 4 to 5 people, learn to lift, coaching heavy. Hey, let's just get in the gym and train. I've done the really big events, right? Where we got 100 plus people, it spans the entire weekend. Maybe it's 3 days. I've done all of these, but I'm telling you, the 3 or 4 events that I have run in the last 2 to 3 years have been so much harder to get people to attend. But here's the thing, guys. If you're listening to this, you probably already know, but I'm going to say it out loud. There's nothing better for learning than live events. There's nothing better. And look, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with online courses. Hell, I have an online coach or I have an online course. And if you live in Japan or Bulgaria or Australia and you can't attend one of our live events, by all means do it because I think it's a great proxy. But I will tell you, if you have your choice between doing an online course and doing the exact same thing live and in person wins 7 days out of the week, 365 days out of the year. It's unparalleled. Because not only do you get the immersion, you get to be in the room, you get to learn all of that content live and in person, but it's dynamic. You get to sit there and you get to ask questions. So if you're attending one of my courses, you get to ask me questions. There's feedback right in real time. So if something's not clear, you can raise your hand and say, Mike, what's going on? I don't understand this. And I can clarify. But it's not just the event. It's all the stuff after the event as well, right? The little breaks where you go and get coffee and you can talk to the other coaches. You can share war stories. And you can talk about, hey, man, here's what I'm struggling with. Oh, yeah, I struggled with that too. Here's what I did. Like those back and forth interactions are amazing, right? It's just that feeling that you're not on an island. And I think sometimes I know I feel it as an entrepreneur. That's why I gravitate towards other entrepreneurs now as my friends, Luca, Andy, Joel, guys that are in similar situations to me. But I can talk to those guys about that. But it's the same thing as a trainer or coach, right? If you don't talk to other trainers and coaches, it feels like you're the only one that maybe has that crazy client that does that weird thing or smells bad when they come in the gym. You just need to be around other trainers and coaches, right? And we need to get back to interacting with others and just being around other people that are dealing with the same stuff that we are. So instead of one actionable item, I got a bunch here, right? And I think I actually put maybe a post up about this on Instagram a while back, but here are some ideas that I think might help. Number one, if you're in a big metro area and there's a strong coaching base there, organize a meet and greet. Say, hey guys, we're going to go meet at this coffee shop and we're going to hang out and talk shop for an hour. Awesome idea. Attend a seminar or workshop, right? It may not be close. I remember Eric Cressy posted something, I think it was on IG a while back, but it was something like, just because a trainer or coach is closest to you doesn't mean they're the best for you. Same thing here, right? Attend a seminar or workshop and it may not be close. You may have to drive kind of far away. You may have to fly across the country. You might have to get a hotel room, right? It might cost money, but it's worth it. Again, hopefully you're setting that money aside for your continuing education fund. But attend a seminar or workshop, do a facility visit, right? I've had numerous people over the last year, I hadn't done any of these in a while, but I've had numerous facility visits over the last year where people are like, hey, can I just come in and shadow you or watch you coach for a while? Sure. But the bottom line is just find ways to get around other trainers and coaches who are trying to level up and get better, right? It's that old saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. If you want to get better, get around other people, get around other high performers. All right. So that's number 4, grow your coaching inner circle. Number 5, this one's going to be interesting. Take care of yourself like you ask your clients and athletes to. All right. I'm going to repeat that because I think it's important. Take care of yourself like you ask your clients and athletes to. So I'll give you a couple examples here. Here are conversations I've had with athletes and just Gen Pop clients that I've worked with over the last week. Number 1, hey, boss, you need to lock in your training schedule. You're a little bit all over the place. We need to lock that in. Number 2, make sure you're getting enough protein at every meal. I've got certain people that will skip protein at breakfast, or maybe they'll have low protein at lunch and they'll have a massive amount at dinner. So make sure you're getting enough protein at every meal. Lots of talk about hydration lately. So, hey man, you got to make sure half pound would be a lot. Half ounce of water for every pound of body weight. All right. Lots of hydration talk lately, and a lot of people are underhydrated. Number 4, are you getting 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep every night? No, 4 to 5 every night is not adequate. It's not enough. Another one, if your body is beat up, here's my massage therapist. I've given 2 or 3 people referrals to Jenny, our massage therapist, over the past month because they are beat up, because they're dealing with some nagging stuff that is, slow to resolve with the work that we're doing in the gym. All right. And this is just a handful of the conversations. Now, here's my question to you. When I'm having all of these discussions internally, I'm also asking myself, okay, but am I doing all those things? So to circle this back to you, right? Think about all the conversations you're having. Think of all the things you're telling your clients and athletes to do. And now ask yourself, yes, but am I doing all of those things myself? And so what we don't want to do here is being the pot that's calling the kettle black, right? So if you're not doing those things, you got to ask yourself, well, why am I not doing it? If you're not getting 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep, why are you not doing that? If you're not getting a half ounce of water per pound of body weight, why not? If you're telling your clients they need to work out 2 to 3 times a week, why not, right? Why are you not doing these things, right? And so I think one of the things that I've always tried to be a believer in is that I'm not just about talking the talk. I'm not going to tell my athletes to do these 50 things to take great care of their body, and I'm not doing them myself, right? So I'm also conscious of the fact that, this is my 25th year coaching, right? I'm 47 years old, and it's very clear, like, I'm not getting any younger, right? I was looking the other day, I'm like, man, a lot of gray in my beard. I don't know if that just happened like overnight or it's progressive, but my body is finding ways to tell me I am not getting any younger. So if I want to be able to move and perform at the level or the standard that I have set personally for myself, man, I got to work that much harder to stay there. So I can't skip a whole bunch of workouts. I can't, just eat whatever I want whenever I want, right? I can't sleep 4 or 5 hours a day and just try and grind through it because it doesn't work for me anymore. All right. So the actionable item here is I want you to think critically about yourself and kind of where you're at, and, don't beat yourself up about it. If you're really like in a bad spot, okay. I want you to ask yourself, what is one thing that you can do to level up your training, your nutrition, your recovery, or your mindset? One of the things that I used to talk about was a keystone habit. And if I can find the link, I'll drop it in the show notes because I think it's worth revisiting. But I did an entire podcast on keystone habits. And back in the day, for me, my keystone habit, right? The one thing, like if I did this one thing, everything else in my life got better. It's interesting because it used to be training. So maybe I'm not eating the best. I'm not getting enough sleep. Maybe my mental health just isn't kind of where I want it. I'm kind of depressed or anxious, whatever. For me, it was always linked to training. I could say, oh man, I just took a week off, or I had some really unproductive workouts, or I'm not making my workouts a priority. So I would say, okay, I need to lock that in. Generally within a week, if I just got serious about my training, everything got better. You start training hard. Oh man, now I need to tighten up my diet. All right, well, I'm training hard. Now I need to make sure I'm recovering, right? Because I want to make sure I'm performing at a high level when I'm at the gym. So it's interesting because that used to be the keystone habit. Now, as I've gotten older, the keystone habit is really sleep, right? And so now I can track back if I don't have a lot of energy during my workouts, or I'm a little bit moody, or I'm a little bit short with, my clients, my athletes, my family. When I come home, it's generally sleep related. And so now it's like, oh, okay, I got to kickstart the recovery train first. So I got to, do my 60 to 90 minute kind of bedtime ritual, right? Where I'm, doing some stretching or some resets or some breathing. I'm reading, all my electronics are off, 60 minutes before bed. There's a certain kind of ritual. If I go through all those things, I get in bed at the right time, start to sleep well. Oh, it's amazing. 2 or 3 days down the line, it's like, oh yeah, no, I'm back to where I should be. Okay. So I digress, but what's one thing that you can do from a training, nutrition, recovery, or mindset perspective to start to get things back on the right track? All right. Number 6, don't be afraid to outsource your health and wellness. Okay. So another random thought here, because I love these little thought experiments and questions, but every single day we are asking people to spend money on us, right? Regardless, if you're listening to this, you're a coach, physical therapist, massage therapist, you're somebody that asks people to spend money with you to take care of their health. So again, now bringing this back to you, we ask people to pay us money to train them. When is the last time you paid someone to help you? Okay. So a few things we know as coaches. Number 1, writing your own program is hard. Why is it so hard? I don't know. I'd like to think I'm pretty objective. I can take a step back. Man, writing my own program is really hard. Number 2, we're all biased, right? And it's especially biased when it comes to our own program. I have all these thoughts in my brain as to what my body needs, or what exercises are good for me, what aren't, exercises I should and shouldn't include in my program. It's just hard, right? Because I'm so biased about my own training. And then third, we know that we are often the last person to get a program, right? I could have 10 programs to write in a week and mine's the 11th. If I have 2 programs to write, mine's the 3rd. It's always the last program, all right? Because we're almost kind of conditioned to take care of ourselves last, all right? So again, this could be training, it could be coaching, it could be physical therapy, it could be massage. Wherever you're struggling right now, if you can't do it on your own, find a way to outsource it and bring somebody else in. Okay. So a couple examples for me personally, a couple years ago, I wanted to lock in my nutrition. And again, I've got an amazing dietitian that sits right here next to me every day, but I don't want to bother her with nutrition stuff. She does that all day, and I wanted somebody from an outside perspective to kind of look in and audit what I was doing. So I hired Cody McBroom and Trevor Ratsky, right? They came in, they helped me with my nutrition for like 6 months, and I felt really locked in. Still to this day, I'm using the rules and kind of the principles that they outlined for me. If I get stuck with my body, right? I got Bill, I got Eric, I got two amazing PTs that work right down the hall from me. So kind of the message here is simple. You can't do all the things. And if I want to give you an actionable item, again, what are you struggling with performance in or health wise, right? Where are you struggling? And then who in your network could help you take that performance to the next level? So that's why we have networks, guys. We can't do it all. And especially the longer I do this, man, I would love to know all the things. Like, I'm fascinated by everything. I love training. I love nutrition. I love recovery. I've met some really cool people lately that are doing lab work and DNA sequencing. Like, there's so much cool stuff out there. I wish I could know it all. But also, the more I learn about just training and coaching, the more I realize, damn, the deeper I get in this rabbit hole, the more there is to learn. And this is just my area of expertise. So if you are struggling with your own health, your own performance, find somebody else to help you out with it. Outsource it so you get a little bit more accountability and you get back on track. Number 7, recover like a pro. And again, this should sound pretty familiar because look, man, training is cool. Like, training is super cool. I still love to train. I love getting after it in the gym. There's no better feeling, or very few, probably better feelings in life than just getting a great workout in. But recovery is really where it's at. So another story, because I'm all about the stories today. So 2008, when we opened the gym, it's literally Bill and I every day. And I remember a lot of times on Fridays were the days when I would go in and I would update all the programs. Now, Fridays were kind of a busy day in the gym at the time. And for me, my sleep was all over the board, right? Like, it was really messed up. And so there were days I'd be up at 4 a.m. I'd just get up, shower, just like crush like some Guns N' Roses or Whitesnake in the car. I would be ready to go in the gym, sitting at my desk at 4:30, and I would just crush programs for like an hour and a half. But I'd also get on Twitter because the only people that are really up at that point in time are newscasters, right? And I had a bunch of newscasters that were following the gym because it was new. And they just keep the craziest hours, right? There was a gal, Lauren Lowry, who came into our gym a couple of times. She's up at like 3 a.m. and she has to have makeup done at 4 so she can go on at 5. And so I was following these newscasters, and I just remember there was a hashtag that was trending a lot at that time. And it was hashtag team no sleep. And at the time, you kind of wear it as a badge of honor. Like, oh, I'm starting this gym. I don't need sleep. I'm going to grind it out. Dog, I'm 47 now. Like, I need sleep, right? And it's kind of cool until you realize, a couple of years later, like, wow, man, I'm like strung out on caffeine. I feel horrible. I'm absolutely cooked, by the time 7 o'clock rolls around, because I've been in the gym from 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. to 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and I'm cooked, right? I've got nothing left. Plus, when we start talking about recovery, so many of these things are actually either free and incredibly easy to implement, right? Like, it doesn't cost anything really to get a good night's sleep, right? It doesn't cost anything to do some breath work or to do some meditation, right? So sometimes when we start talking about nutrition or massage or these other things, yeah, they're great, but there's a cost associated with it. So if cost is an issue for you right now and you want to bootstrap it, hey man, just do your bedtime routine, right? Do the rituals that help you get 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Do some breath work, do some meditation when you're feeling anxious or stressed out. But something else that I've learned over the years with regards to recovery is that perception is a really big deal. Okay. I remember, I think it was the early 2010s, 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, that Dave Tennant and the Seattle Sounders used to put on this amazing conference. And there was a guy talking about recovery. He was talking about massage. And so he was talking about how perception with massage was so different between athletes. And I remember he was doing I think it was like a recovery questionnaire. And so same massage therapist goes into athlete number one. Athlete number one loves massage, super confident in their body. So they get a massage and they feel an immediate impact. They get off the table, they do the recovery questionnaire. They're like, yeah, I feel amazing. My body feels loose. I feel invigorated. They felt like it positively impacted their recovery. Okay. Now, athlete number 2 goes in. Keep in mind, everything else is the same, right? Same massage therapist, same setting, same environment. But this person, for whatever reason, doesn't like being touched, right? Maybe they have, body issues, right? So now they get massage therapy, and with all things being the same, they do their recovery questionnaire and it's actually worse. Okay. So when it comes to recovery, right, and especially recovery modalities, perception is really important. This is also interesting because when I worked with Roy Hibbert, him again, I think this was 2012 now. It's been a little bit. But I remember learning the difference between maybe how we did physical therapy or treatment at IFAST, which is very, it's very driven by the patient, right? So there's a reason Bill or Eric or whoever was in there would have you do your own foam rolling, right? They would have you do your own breathing and your own resets. It was very patient-led because that allows you to do those things on your own at home, right? Especially in our environment, you're not seeing somebody every week. You may come back once a week, once every other week, maybe even once a month. So you have to be diligent in your exercise routine and your homework and making sure you're doing those things. Okay. Now, compare that or contrast that to what you might get when you're with, say, an NBA team or an NFL team and you get traditional treatment. You may just sit there on your phone for an hour. And I never understood this until I saw, Roy get this done. We were in San Antonio. He was at the Spurs facility and this guy was like, hey, what do you got going on? And Roy was like, hey, this is what they're doing with the Pacers. And the guy's like, okay. And literally Roy's on his phone for like an hour, just kind of scrolling. And this guy's doing everything to him, right? Manips, massage, all these things. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is so much different than what we've done. All right. And so the point here being that perception means a lot, but it also doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong, right? So some of the best athletes that I know, they like some of the homework-based stuff, but sometimes people just want to kick back, relax, and have somebody work on them as well. All right. So when we start talking about recovering like a pro, perception really is reality in a lot of cases. So figure out what works for you, right? And then ask yourself, actionable item, what is one simple thing that you can start doing right now today to recover more effectively? And if cost is an issue, hey, maybe it's the sleeping, the breath work, the meditation. If money isn't an issue or you got some soft tissue stuff, hey, outsource it. Find a really great PT. If it's a massage thing, outsource it. Find a great massage therapist, right? But start to take care of your body like you are a pro, right? Because if you want to do this for decades, right? And again, that's my goal. I want to be able to do this for as long as possible. I have to take care of my body to some level like I'm a professional athlete. All right. So that's number 7, recover like a pro. Number 8, learn how to say no. Right. And I always joke around and I kind of admit, hey, man, I'm a recovering people pleaser. This has probably been one of the hardest things for me to do personally. Right. As trainers and coaches, I think we're conditioned, right? If we're not conditioned, it's like baked into our DNA that we want to help people. Right. I am a humble servant. I understand that. Part of my role is to serve the clients and athletes that I work with on any given day. But also, it helped me to kind of understand over the long haul that every time that I say yes to something, right? And whether it's positive meaning or not, right? If the things that I am saying yes to, whether it's somebody else's goals, agenda, timeline, whatever, when I say yes to one thing, I'm simultaneously saying no to something else, right? And as I've gotten older, what I've gotten better about is not saying yes to things that aren't impactful to me, because ultimately, when I do that, I'm saying no to things like potentially my own needs, my own goals, my own desires. And it's just, the old school saying, when you say yes to one thing, whether you know it or not, you're also saying no to other things. So one of the things that I have made it a goal to do over the course of my career, and especially over the last 3 to 5 years, is just to say no more often, right? And it's not in a mean or a rude way. But one of the things that I heard, and it really resonated with me, is that what I would do a lot, let's start there. One of the things I would do a lot is say, somebody would ask me to do something, right? Let's just say a podcast. Somebody would say, hey, will you come on my podcast? And I look and I'm like, man, this person is really just starting. Like they seem like a cool person, but they got no audience. Their other shows haven't been really well received. They don't look super prepared. So instead of just saying no, I'd be like, hey, I'm like super busy. Could we do that in like 4 months? And inevitably, I would kick the can down the line, right? And so then the 4 months would come and, well, now I got to do the podcast. I'm still not excited about doing it. All right. So one of the things that I've learned to do is that if I wouldn't say yes to it now, right, then I'm absolutely not going to say yes to it later, right? So if I'm not going to say yes to it now, I'm definitely going to say no, not just now, but in the future, right? Unless this is somebody that's just getting started and, hey, 5 years down the line, they've got a budding podcast and they're professional and they know what they're doing. Hey, man, if it's not a yes now, it's going to be a no probably forever. And so if we want to take this and apply it to you, because I think this is probably really relevant, we are conditioned in a lot of ways to say yes to the clients and athletes we work with. So case in point, let's say 11 a.m. on Tuesday, random time because that's generally when I work out. But let's just say 11 a.m. on Tuesday. You have carved that time out, and that's going to be one of the days that you go in the gym and you do your own workout. Okay, but now 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, a client texts you and they're like, hey, look, I've got an open hour at 11. Can I get my workout in? Now, it's one thing if you genuinely need the money, right? And look, we all have different points when we're coming up and we're getting started where money is an issue. And maybe you really do need to say yes. But I think after a while, we're just conditioned to say yes, whether we need the money or not. And so I would challenge you, is the $60 or $80, $100, whatever you get out of working that session, is that really more valuable than you taking that hour to yourself to get your own workout in? And I can't answer that question for you, but I just want you to start to pause and reflect on that. Because again, when we're getting started, I understand you got to say yes to things, and you got to make sacrifices. But I think it gets to a certain point where now you're just saying it because you've always done it versus that's really what's best for you. All right. So as an actionable item here, before you say yes to something that you'll regret later or something you're not excited about that's down the line, I want you to create some time and space. If it's an email, a text, whatever, take 12 hours, take 24 hours, take a day or two, especially if it's a big commitment, and just really reflect on if this is something that's appropriate for you at this time in your career. And if it's not, don't feel compelled to say yes just because, right? You need to figure out what are the best investments of your time and your energy. And sometimes the best thing to do is say no to somebody else so that you can ultimately take better care of yourself. Okay. Number 9, curate your social media. And I've talked about this on the pod for sure. I definitely have a love-hate relationship with social. I am not shy about admitting to that. In a lot of instances, I love it because I get to connect with people that, I love, that I care about. I get to see my athletes, go out and ball out, whether it's on a soccer pitch or a basketball court. If somebody's playing in Finland or Belgium or China or Turkey, I don't get to watch those games very often, right? It takes a lot of work. So I love that aspect of it. I love to be able to see my athletes do what they do at the highest level, right? And I'm always conscious of that. I love being able to connect with people that I don't see every day, right? Again, a lot of the people that I mentioned on here, fellow entrepreneurs, people who I'm genuinely invested in their success just because I love them and I love what they're doing in the world. I want to see that. But I also recognize the fact, I don't know why, I think it's just how the thing has worked. But I also feel like if I'm spending more than 5 to 10 minutes on social on any given clip, I'm immediately getting FOMO. And I shouldn't be getting FOMO. Come on, guys. Like, I'm at a really good point in my life and my career. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm successful. Like, why should I have any sense of FOMO about what somebody else is doing? Right. And that's just IG. I'm not even on TikTok. Right. So the solution here lately has been to really diligently curate my feed. And I know people probably aren't going to love hearing this, but like I've gotten really kind of militant almost at who I follow, There's been some unfollows here lately, like some unfollowing sprees where it's like, hey man, there's just too many people on here. Some people I don't feel like are genuine, right? On social media, I feel like they are curating themselves to look and appear a certain way, and it's inauthentic to me. So I've worked very hard to curate my feed here lately. And look, I'll just be honest. There are people that I absolutely love in real life that I will actively go out of my way to go spend time with, that I don't follow or pay very little attention to on social because it's almost overwhelming to me. All right. And again, they're not bad people. And also, I don't get to be the judge and the jury. Like if what they're doing on social works for them and it's generating them business or leads or whatever it is they need, hey, great, keep doing it. But I'm just going to, respect the fact that I don't love that for me. I don't like how that makes me feel. And so therefore, I'm going to distance myself from that. So one of the things that I've tried to remember, and I hope some of these are beneficial for you. Number one, I think we always need to remember that we're running our own race, right? And for me, this comes back to lifestyle. I know there are people in my life, people that have started at a similar point than me that have become wildly more successful than me. And if I want to be honest with myself, hey, there's a reason they're more successful. They made sacrifices that I was unwilling to make, right? They worked longer hours. They took time away from their friends and their family to do those things professionally. And I'm happy for them. But I also have to respect the fact that, hey, those sacrifices in my career allowed me to have this amazing relationship with my wife, with my kids, with the people in my gym, right? With my athletes. And so one is not right or wrong. Like we don't get to choose that. At the end of the day, you have to run your own race. You have to figure out what works best for you. Okay. The second piece is, I don't need to feel bad about myself, right? Like I've chosen to be present and intentional in certain areas of my life, so I don't have to feel bad. But I think if I'm going to give you an actionable item here, it's this. It's that ultimately social media is not going away, right? And if you're a trainer or a coach, hate to say it, but you're kind of a content creator too, right? Like if I had a way to crack the code and never be on social media, I don't care if it was writing articles every day or emailing newsletters every day. If I could find a way to not be on social and do the things that I want to do professionally, I would absolutely do it. But I don't see that happening. I don't know how that works because if I did, I would already be doing it. So if you're going to be on social media, you have to make it work for you. And so one of the things that I've tried to do is very diligently curate my feed and what I see. And it's got to be positive. It's got to be impactful. It's got to make me aspire to be more. It's got to be learning and curiosity driven. And it can't just be, look at me, pick me, I'm awesome. If it feels like it's just somebody's personal highlight reel all the time, and it's not about lifting other people up or making the industry better, then I'm not going to follow it. And so kind of the notes I had here are make social media work for you, follow, engage with people who bring you joy, people that help you grow, and that people you want to learn from. And then kind of the back half of this, and I think this is really important, and it's hard to come to grips with, but I think you have to remember that even if you love and enjoy somebody in real life, right? Because you get the full picture, you get the full context, you get the highs and the lows, but there's people that you might love in real life. That doesn't mean you have to follow, engage, or interact with them on social media if it doesn't benefit you. And it's not about being selfish, but it is about keeping, your own mental health in a positive place. All right. So if you're not doing it already, start to curate your social media, make it work for you. And then the final point here, number 10, is to be reflective of the impact you make on people's lives every single day. And I saved arguably the most important lesson for last, because what I want you to do, I never want you to forget about the value and the impact you bring to people's lives every single day. I think a lot of times as coaches, it's very easy to get caught up in the grind, right? Hey man, you're working those 16-hour days, you're working split shifts, you're working 5, 6, maybe even 7 days a week. And sometimes when you get caught up in that grind, it's very easy to feel like you're not making a difference, like you're not truly serving the people that you work with. And I'm just going to ask you to pause here for a second and say, if you are working that way, if you are working incredibly hard, I guarantee if you're giving your best effort and you're working to get better every single day, that you are making a positive impact with every single person you coach. And it's hopefully enough for me to say it, but you have to internalize that. You have to remember that. You have to remember why you're doing it. And you have to remember that these people would be worse off if they had not met you and if they had not started working with you. So this is not a lie. This is not an exaggeration. But again, when things get tiring, when they get stressful, when they get downright hard, you got to pause. You got to reflect on this. And you have to remember why you started doing this in the first place. And so, if you're in like the Gen Pop fat loss space, I want you to pause for a minute and think about the impact you've had on Betty, who you've helped lose 20 pounds, right? Maybe she's off certain medications. Maybe she can fit in those jeans that she hasn't been able to fit in for the last 5 or 10 years. Maybe she's just more confident and excited to go to the beach for spring break or fall break or summer break, right? So I want you to think about Betty. I want you to think about Bill, right? Who's maybe in his 70s, who before he met you was struggling to get up and move around. He didn't have the energy to play with his grandkids, or every time he got down on the ground, he couldn't get back up because he hurt. He couldn't go on long hikes with his family. So I want you to think about Bill and the impact you've had on him. Maybe think about Johnny, old Johnny with the sweet little jumper that couldn't stay in front of anybody on defense, right? Little Johnny came to you, and now, hey man, he's a thriving player, right? His feet are quicker. He can move. He's still got that sweet jumper, but now he can stay on the court because he can play defense, right? And so I'm going to use a baseball analogy here. Not a lot of home runs in what we do. It's not like you show up to the gym one day and somebody's lost 40 pounds or they've added 30 pounds to their bench. These things don't happen overnight, right? There are no home runs in what we do, right? Everything that we do are singles, they're doubles, they're stealing bases, right? It's small ball baseball, but it's all those small wins stacked and accumulated over time that allow for those big wins and those big successes. All right. So here's an actionable item. And I know this might be hard. Every day would be ideal. But if not every day, at least on those really hard days, I want you to pause. I want you to take a moment and just reflect on the positive impact that you have on all the people you work with when you go into the gym. Right. And I think if you do this often enough, I did this as I was preparing this podcast. It really made me think about, hey man, like I really feel like I've made a positive impact with so many people. I've helped so many people, and hopefully, podcasts like this help people like you. It helps you kind of reframe and refocus your energy and just think about, hey man, I'm making a real impact in the world. Okay, my friend. So that does it. Our 10 tips to becoming a happy, healthy, and more successful coach. To recap, number 1, start with lifestyle design first. We all want to think about our careers, and that's important. But if you think about the lifestyle you want to lead first, all the career decision-making becomes infinitely easier. Number 2, live beneath your means, especially when you're just getting started, right? You don't have to flex with the fancy car, the nice house, jewelry, shoes, any of that, right? Live beneath your means. We're playing a long game here, friends. All right. And to help you do that, number 3, start using Profit First ASAP. I'm serious about this. If you're not using this, or if you haven't read this book, buy it right now. Read it, start implementing it. The only thing that is even somewhat uncomfortable about it early on is setting up all the bank accounts. But once those bank accounts are set up, if you're diligent about putting your money aside and really allocating your money in an appropriate way, it's going to help you for decades going forward. Number 4, grow your coaching inner circle. Find ways to get out in the real world, interact with other trainers and coaches. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. So get around other high performers. Number 5, take care of yourself like you ask your clients and athletes to. Don't give your clients and athletes the laundry list of training, nutrition, recovery, mindset tips and strategies that you're not following on your own. Okay. So find ways. If you're not doing it right now, it's okay. Right. We all have those moments where we fall to the wayside a little bit, but find ways to lock yourself back in and just find one thing that you can start doing right now today to get yourself moving back in the right direction. Number 6, outsource aspects of your health whether it's programming, massage, physical therapy. If there is something you are struggling with that somebody from the outside can help with, invest in that, right? We ask people to spend money with us all the time. So we need to be willing to do that with other people to help us achieve our health and wellness goals. Number 7, recover like a pro. Could be cheap and easier things to do like sleep, meditation, breath work. It could be things that you have to invest a little money in like nutrition or supplements or massage, but really start to take care of yourself. Think of yourself as a high performing athlete and then start to recover like one as well. Number 8, learn how to say no. If it's not a yes right now today with enthusiasm, then it's definitely going to be a no down the line. Number 9, curate your social media. Social media has to work for you, my friend. It has to. If you're feeling dread, anxiety, FOMO, if you feel worse about yourself after 5 minutes on social media, it's time to reflect on how you're using it and ways that you can get more out of it, right? So start to curate your social media feed. And then last but not least, remember, be reflective of the impact that you make on people's lives every single day. Training's hard, man. Coaching is hard. Long hours. We work around other people's schedules. We are servants in many cases to the people that we work with and that we coach. But hey, man, if you take that time to pause and reflect and think about, all the wins that you've had over your lifetime, over your coaching career, I mean, the longer you do this, you just start to stack more and more of those. But it can also be easy to become complacent, to ignore those, to become accustomed to that. So you got to pause, reflect, and just remember, hey, man, I'm making a real impact in the world. So my friend, that does it for today's episode. Really hope you enjoyed this. Hadn't done a solo show in a while, so I hope it was impactful for you. If you got something out of this, number 1, if you're not subscribed to the show, go and do that right now. Whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, go and subscribe right now. If you enjoyed the show, like it, leave a comment. And hey, man, if you enjoyed the show, please do me one big favor, and that would be to share this on whatever social media platform you're on. I'm not on TikTok. I'm traditionally on IG. So if you're enjoying the show, take a screen cap, post, and then tag me at Rob Train System so I can share it, because I think as great as the expert interviews are, and I love talking to experts, I love nerding out on plyometrics and program design and all of those things, I do think sometimes we just need these calls to arms, right? Where it's like, hey, man, let's lock back in, let's refocus our energies and get back out there and make a real impact in the world. So my friend, as always, thank you so much for your support. Love and appreciate you. And we'll be back next week with our next episode. Take care.